Welcome back to the next episode of the Ecom Growth Show. I'm your host, Danan Coleman, founder of Ecom Triage. With me, I've got someone that is, I think, going to impart a glorious amount of knowledge upon us in this episode. He does not come from the Amazon world, but the SEO world. And a lot of what Amazon does stems from that world, stems from Google. So this is Dan Kurtz. He is the owner of Miss Pepper AI, and I dare say a genius in this arena. Certainly impressed me. But luckily for you, I'm easy to impress, and I don't know much about AI. So you could be terrible at this, for all I know. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, buddy?
Hey guys, I'm Dan. As Dan had said, I've been doing this for what? It's almost 2026, so going on about 20 years playing in the online marketing space. You name it, I've seen it. From the dawn of what was early SEO to where we are now and everything in between, all the changes, all the updates, watching marketing as a whole. Um, Spent a lot of time inside of other people's businesses. Did some work internally at Bing, did some work internally with Nielsen, got to understand how corporate or Fortune 100 or Fortune 50 is using that data, and how they're integrating it into everything they do across the board. And so we'll talk about some of that. We'll talk about where we are currently with some of the AI stuff, and also kind of what I see coming down the pipe here in probably the next 6 to 12, maybe even 18 months.
Cool, and it feels like that sounds like an eternity when it comes to AI in terms of what's possible. Because we've seen it move so fast, or at least I have. I know that AI has been around since long before ChatGPT became popular, but it wasn't mainstream, right? Um, but yeah, I'm really excited about this. And so, just so everyone knows, I met Dan. Dan is fairly local to me. He's in the Tampa Bay area as well, and he's supposed to invite me to his AI meetups, secret AI meetups, where they all show up hooded and stuff like that. But I haven't managed to get in the door yet. But so Dan, I've got some questions prepared for you, and but let's just roll. Like whatever you want to say. You have such extensive knowledge on SEO and digital marketing that I mean, we could probably do 5 different podcasts, all on a different subject having to do with that stuff. Like your knowledge is so deep in that, just based on the short conversations that we've had. Well, I guess we spent really a few hours of conversations, but um, so let me start off with the first question, if you are ready. All right. So you've built a business where AI isn't the hero, it's the assistant. Why does that distinction matter so damn much?
So I'm glad you asked that question. So the reason why that distinction matters is because a lot of times, especially nowadays, you'll see people come out with, an AI tool, and the problem is everybody else who has a credit card and a brainstem has access to that AI tool. So everybody takes the card, throws it in, starts running up a bunch of credits, and they all get the same, what the general population calls AI slop. Essentially, it's the digital oatmeal of content and marketing and everything else. And it's standard issue in the way that you are getting the same output because everybody else is using that same tool or that same model or that same subscription plan. And there's nothing in there that gives it a USP, an edge, something that is unique to your business and who you are. So I view as being the assistant to your business because your business is your brand, your customers, your communication channels, all the things that you normally do in your business, wherever you spend your time. So if it's ecom, you may be spending the majority of your time interacting with customer reviews on Amazon. If you're a bit broader in ecom, you probably know that you need to be paying attention on social and a few other channels as well and interacting with your customers. All of that is training data that could be given to an AI that then makes that content uniquely yours. It belongs to your brand. It belongs to you as a person. You give it a digital fingerprint, so to speak. And that's why I believe it's extremely important to have a level of automation and AI involved in your business, but there has to be that human touch. A human has to be in the loop. You can go ahead and say, hey, I drafted up a 5,000 word article and it's great and it ranks and it does all this cool stuff for my business. But if it doesn't feel like you, if it doesn't feel like your brand when somebody goes to interact with it or somebody comes across your content for the first time. Like if somebody's searching to solve a problem online and they happen to stumble across your business or your website, what's that first interaction with your brand look like? Is it custom curtailed to, hey, this really answers my question? Oh, and they've got a bunch of other great content and they've got a sense of humor. Are they going to wind up opting in? Are they signing up? Are they going to go follow you on social? If your content doesn't resonate with the person you're trying to interact with, you have essentially a soulless brand. That's what happens a lot of times with these AI tools. People get wrapped up in the, oh my God, I have so much more free time. Yes, but you didn't spend any time checking to make sure it was good. And now every person that you would be potentially interacting with is seeing all of your AI slop and not interacting with your brand at all. So it's that
Uh,
balance.
Yeah, that's so well said. I just did an episode with somebody where in that episode he said, yeah, use AI to save yourself time, but then take that time to reinvest in the business.
Yep,
And
exactly.
I was like, dude, let me tell you a little bit about my past in that when I got things running and self-sustaining to some degree and automated, this is quite a few years ago on Amazon. My wife and I just effed off to Europe and the Bahamas and stuff like that. We'd work 5 hours a week, something like that on our business. Instead of reinvesting in the business, we decided to spend our time and money just gallivanting around the planet. And that's one way to do it. But it's not sustainable if you want to expand. If you want to scale your business. And that was a huge mistake that I made in that I went gallivanting instead of doubling down on expansion.
Absolutely. So there's a mutual acquaintance that I have inside of the SEO space, and he's a brilliant businessman when it comes to what he does, and he focuses mainly on the ops side of things now. His name is Matt Singer, and we were having a discussion a couple months ago at a conference we were both speaking at. And one of the things that I took away from a conversation with him was I said, what do you deem a successful business? And he said, you need to be able to be step away from your business for 90 days and know that nothing would change.
Nice. Yeah.
and
So
every
that's a successful business.
to him, yeah, that you have the ability that you have all the people, processes, capital, everything in place where it needs to be. That if something were to go sideways and you were out of work, something happened, whatever it might be, you had an accident, you went on vacation for 3 months, just either the good or the bad of the unfathomable happening.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
long could that business sustain itself without you? And if the answer is shorter than 90 days, then you'd have to rethink how you're doing your business.
Interesting. Yeah. So one of the things that I'm really working hard on is automations. You and I were talking about that while Kevin King and Norm Farrar were here and we were having cigars. As I told you, I was playing with N8N to figure out just to go look at my Gmail account, reference a database of all of the questions I've been asked and my responses to those emails, and then draft a response.
Mhm.
Uh, well, I'm still working on that. It works exactly the same as when we last spoke, which is not at all.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's one of the things I'm trying to automate because one of the most soul sucking and time sucking things for me is spending my time in my email instead of either creating content or just being out there being able to help people, you know?
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of going back to the initial question. It's why AI is the assistant. But you can put enough of it in place where people look at AI and automation, all these things as ways to get their time back. What I'm looking at is these are ways for you to automate business processes.
Yeah.
These are ways where now that person who may be on your team is a media buyer or working in the warehouse doing fulfillment or however you have your business set up, what you're doing is you're taking the grunt work off of their plate so that they can then go ask AI, hey, here's all the orders that came in yesterday. What's the one thing in common between all of them? Where did they come from? What's our source of traffic or whatever it was that it came from? Was it direct from Amazon? Was it the website? Did they click through from YouTube somehow? And then you could start looking at that. And now you have somebody who's in that role who now has business intelligence based off of that data. And you can feed that to the AI, and that becomes a whole pillar of your business.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. And that's one of the things that ways that I plan on leveraging AI. I don't ever want to, let's talk about sales. Like, I don't ever want to not be the person that the client interacts with. I should rephrase that. I don't want the client to never interact with me.
Mhm.
You know, I want to be, there needs to be a human behind the business, because I thoroughly believe that people do business with people, not corporations. Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same thing you look at with any brand, whether it's on e-com or their own brand. You know, you look at these large companies and they've got, like, for example, in the apparel space, Grunt Style, which is an American veteran founded thing. They've got a bunch of stuff that speaks to a certain type of humor, a certain type of demographic, but they fully lean into it. And, you know, all of those things line up with that audience's principles. And it's that great match between the two.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Okay, cool. All right. So I want to dive down into a little bit. This is not the Amazon world, but I find a lot of Amazon sellers are trying to diversify off of Amazon, get Shopify accounts, build well, you don't hear WooCommerce anymore, but
Yeah.
that was my first e-com store, was WooCommerce, but highly complicated compared to Shopify. Um, I want to dive a little bit into that, because I think everyone needs, if you're going to have a brand, I believe you at minimum need a website. And if you have a website, you might as well try and convert people while they're there. So what is identity resolution? What is it? And why does it matter to me in e-com?
So identity resolution in the old fashioned days is what police officers used to do. They would try to figure out all the pieces of evidence that would tie a certain person to a certain crime. So fingerprints, circumstantial evidence, all that kind of stuff. Fast forward,
Caught. Sorry.
exactly. So fast forward 100 years to now, you know, from 1925 to now, 2025. And identity resolution is pretty much the same. What it is taking different pieces of digital data that we can figure out about somebody and creating a profile about that person. So on the B2B side, you know, the company they may work for, department they may work in, other people in that department that work with them, stuff like that, NAICS code, SIC code, annual company revenue, things like
I
that.
don't know those code things.
So it's a US based thing. NAICS is the North American something something. When you go to set up a business and a bank account, they ask you
Yeah.
what you are.
Oh,
Same,
yes. Okay.
yeah, and same thing with the SIC or SIC codes. It's just two different ways of doing it. But figuring out who those are by industry, all that kind of stuff, we do all that research and find out what's there. Then on the B2C side, we have all the personal information about people. So first and last, personal email address, potentially your last address that you lived at based off of USPS data. At one point, we had some really crazy stuff. We had like year, make, model, and VIN number of your most recently purchased vehicle. All sorts of stuff that we can find out about people, because what we're doing is
All
taking those
public
different.
data, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely, and some privatized as well. So we had other companies that we were working with to build a better profile of people. And the reason that we build stuff like that and what we're doing with it is we're trying to deliver you the thing that you're looking for without being a creep. So what it is um, we have all these identities tied to, you know, a giant, let's call it just a giant Google sheet. Obviously, it's more complex than that, but for the folks at home listening who are maybe non-techie, I'll try and make it as small as possible. So
Yeah, because I
ima-
know you can go deep on this.
yeah. So imagine a Google Sheet full of everybody in the US and what they're doing at any given time. We also collect browsing data. So if you've ever been on a website like Credit Karma, if you've been on, you know, Zillow, sites like that, and you've been looking for things, we know that you're in market for those things because of where you hang out. So that helps us to connect the person you are with advertisers that have a product that can help you and bridge that gap faster. So it's kind of like being at work in an office and you go into the lunchroom and say, you know what? There's a new burger joint that just opened down the road. I'm thinking about going. I've got 3 more seats in my car. Does anybody want to go try out the new burger joint with me? 3 people put their hand up and you go, cool, come with me. We're going. You're doing the same thing online. It just happens to be
Yeah.
that we collect a lot of data about it, but we can use that data on the back end so that the client or the end user never sees it, but we're using that data to pre-qualify and figure out what they're looking for, like exactly like who is this person and how do we help them best. And then we get advertisers to connect with them when they're looking for that thing. Um,
Identity resolution goes well beyond just pixeling someone when they land on your page.
yeah, absolutely. So if you were to type in, I don't know, something medically related, you'd probably get a link for Cleveland Clinic or WebMD. We are data partners with those companies. So in exchange for us processing their traffic, they let us see who's browsing their website. So if you're looking for some kind of pain that you're currently having and you browse to a certain page for it, we know that you are potentially having that problem. And then we can either connect you with a local doctor through advertising, or we can try and push you to a product if we have an e-com person within our network that is selling the thing that solves the problem you're having. So then you'll start seeing, you'll get like display ads, not the creepy Facebook ones, like where you close out of Amazon. That's the first thing you see. We don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you'll start to see it on like third party sites. You might get a streaming commercial on Hulu. We've got access to streaming platforms where we can run video ads. Things like that, we're just regularly touching in. On the B2B side of things, there's a lot more we can do. So we can do things like cold call, cold email, on both sides of the fence. We can send postcards if it's a local business that they're trying to get in touch with, just to try and help them to solve that problem quicker.
Yeah. And I've heard that postcards can be extraordinarily effective. Is that
Oh,
still the case?
yeah, absolutely. So to what we're doing, like I said, we have the static data, which is like our B2B and B2C, and then we have our browsing data, which comes in daily. And I think there's like 6 billion rows of data on that sheet. It's huge. But we can see what URLs somebody was browsing the day before and try and figure out based on whatever product or service we have how we can best help them and then give them that thing so we can see how far down the rabbit hole somebody's fallen for that product, and then we can go ahead and send them a postcard once they hit like a certain threshold.
Wow. All right. So let's take this into real life. I own a supplement brand. How can I utilize your services to get to customers?
So what we would do is identify what market you're looking for. So let's say you are selling workout supplements. So you've got a protein powder, creatine, maybe a pre-workout. We would go find people that are currently browsing for those things based off those keywords. So using Google search, that's where the SEO portion of what I do ties into this, is because everything right now is still very much based on keywords, even in LLMs. You may be having a transactional conversation, but it started with some kind of keyword or query that originated it, and we can see all that. But as you start doing that and start browsing, we get a better and better picture of what you're looking for. Uh, so, like for example, in the automotive space, we know that there's about 120 steps before somebody purchases. With something like HVAC, you're looking at about six. It's a much smaller
Yeah.
window just because the buying cycle is much more urgent for that person.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, very interesting. So I could come to you, Miss Pepper AI, and go, hey, listen, I'm trying to attract these people, whatever doesn't matter what the customer base is. Um, and you can go, cool. It's almost like you know what it kind of feels like to me is it's almost like PPC, like keyword targeted PPC, but on a much broader scale. Would that be like a really simplified way of putting it?
Yeah. So instead of trying to watch just specific pages on the internet or bidding on one thing, we can see
Yeah.
them as a whole. So
Yeah.
beyond that, using the fitness example, let's say you have a supplement brand, we can go a step further because of all the data we collect. So I can say, I want to target everybody that has hit any Gold's Gym in the past 30 days because your cell phone pings every 15, 20 seconds to the cell phone tower. So it knows that if you've been within or inside of a fitness center or a gym or any of those type of things, or
So
maybe you can.
how do you get that? How do you
It's
get that data?
that's part of our data processing stuff. So we get all that. We get stuff like app usage. So we could tell you, hey, here's everybody who's been on MyFitnessPal and who has opened or clicked their email in the past 30 days. Maybe now's a good time where they were already signed up to your list. Why not send them a message for a coupon code to try out your new formula? things like that. So it's that just in time marketing, but it's a cohesive thing. A lot of people will see the data and they're like, I'm just going to do cold email or I'm just going to do ads. If you integrate it into every step of your business and you become omni-channel, you become this omnipresent brand in your space. That doesn't take a whole lot of money. We're talking a couple dollars per thousand impressions, like single or double digit, like very, very small numbers per day to be able to do this. Because instead of targeting everybody on the planet who visits that page, we're targeting maybe 20, 30,000 people. So now you're mass marketing to an audience of one. You're just trying to get that one person who matches all the things that you said across the
Yeah.
finish line.
And so your path to a close is much, much faster, much easier.
Right. Plus, we're only targeting them in the bottom half of the conversion cycle. So
Right.
we watch them as they're browsing, and then when they hit that midway point, then we queue them up and say, hey, this person's ready to go. They just need to know your brand and they need to start seeing your messaging. They've already identified the problem. They just need the solution.
This is a whole world I know of, but don't know anything in great detail on that I should have, well, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But man, I wish I just knew more about it so that I could ask you more detailed questions. But uh yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, for the folks at home, it's essentially it's getting you what you want faster. So it cuts the, oh, do I have to go do a Google search? Do I have to watch this YouTube video? We know you're going to do that anyway. We're just waiting for the point where you go, okay, cool, I've done my homework. Now I got to go find something. And then that's where we come in and you start seeing ads and you start being peppered with information from people.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna move on to my next question. You ready for it? All right, let's do it. You're knee deep in B2B sales, SEO, and identity resolution. What's one common belief in each of those that you think are wrong? Let's start off with B2B, then SEO, then identity resolution.
Sure. B2B, a lot of people who are new to the space or are not doing anything in the space have a mindset of, oh my God, it's this huge monolith. How am I going to get in the front door? How am I going to get past the gatekeeper? How am I going to do all these things? And it's really simple. You just go follow that person around on LinkedIn as a person, not a robot. Go follow them around, see what they post about, and then just open up an initial dialogue and have a conversation. It could be a cold message. Maybe you find their email address and you write them a personalized thing. Maybe you find out where their office is and you send them a edible arrangement with a thank you note attached to it saying, hey, blah, 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 blah. There's a million and one ways you can do it, but people like to put B2B on such a high pedestal of, oh my God, it's this corporation. How do I get in the front door? Especially nowadays, more and more of CEOs and people on the board and things of that nature, the more executive positions are becoming more and more public facing. You see them start to interact on LinkedIn. You're seeing them post stuff on social media. Like the brands are becoming, like you mentioned, much more humanized nowadays. And it's
Yeah.
much easier to get in the door and have a conversation with somebody if you're willing to do 15, 20 minutes of research on that person.
Interesting. Okay. And so if there's a company, because I've done this before, I go, okay, hey, this is a big brand. I want to know more about it. Go find that brand on LinkedIn, find out who the people are, and start, commenting on their stuff, and just start engaging with them. And it takes time. You're right. It does take time, but um, it does get you foot in the door.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the B2B, I'll throw one other one out there just because I feel like this is good, especially for some of the people who may be in sales or new to sales. The way that I work with customers is if I wouldn't want to go out for a drink with you, I'm probably not going to do business with you. And it has nothing to do with personality or anything like that. It's just the people that I vibe with are the people I want to work with. And it's just as simple as that. Like I don't want it to feel like a forced conversation or forced anything. Like if somebody comes to me, I want it to be either a referral or, hey, dude, I loved your content. I love your sense of personality, your humor, whatever. I want to know more about your company. Okay, cool. Well, let's have a conversation about it, and then we jam on it on a phone call and figure out if it's a good fit.
Cool. Luckily for you, I showed up to the same drinking well as you did. You didn't have the opportunity to determine if you want to have a drink with me.
Well,
Yep. All right, let's talk about SEO. What's one thing you think is flat out wrong about SEO?
sure. It's the same thing everybody's been saying for better part of 15, 20 years, and that's that SEO is dead. It's
Yeah.
it's never been dead. It's not dying. It's not
Yeah.
going away. As long as there's a place for you to go and ask questions that you need answers to, SEO in some way, shape, or form will always exist. It may not be search engines. People throw around AIO, GEO, all
Yeah.
these acronyms. The thing is that when it comes to search engines and how they understand stuff, again, taking a very complex topic and breaking it down small for everybody listening at home, is Google wants to know three things about your business. They want to know who you are, what you do, and how you do it. They also want to know where you hang out. If you can answer those questions and you can tell them what questions people normally ask your business, so like for example, going into the people also ask section about one of your products or services, if you were to take each one of those topics and turn it into a full-fledged blog post on your website, you could take over the first page of Google for that.
Right. Yeah. So one of my ideas on the Amazon side of things is take find out what people are asking today about Amazon, because I've been a seller for 15 years in the software side for 7. At this point, I've amassed a fair bit of knowledge and can shortcut a lot of stuff for a lot of people. So I thought, well, why don't I find out what questions are being asked today and do a pinpointed video just on that?
Mhm.
And then I take that video and I put it in, embed it into a blog post just about that. I figure I'd be able to snatch up a lot of market share or real estate
Yeah,
um, on the tubes, you know?
absolutely. And you can do that in multiple places. So, on that same note, if you were to take that same piece of content and multi-purpose it, so you take it, you do your video, you take that and chop that and take the audio out. Now you've got a podcast answering the same question. So your
Yeah.
podcast episode title is the
Yeah.
same question. And
Yep.
you do that all the way through, do it for your social posts, and then use one of those AI tools that'll go ahead and take snippets of your video. You take one of those, make those into shorts, upload that into a system, and then you can layer it in with something like repurpose.io, which is a service that'll do that for you. And you just layer that in there, and then now you're omnipresent about that question. So no matter what platform somebody goes to find that answer, there you are.
Yeah. So I do that with the podcast already. Is you and I record this. Anytime I ask you a question, I mark it inside the software. Then I produce shorts based on the questions that I asked you. And usually I try to keep them 30 to 60 seconds. I mean, YouTube shorts, you can go up to 3 minutes now, but the engagement is not nearly as high as 30 to 60. But so that's what I do. I record a long form. I produce 5 short forms. I take the transcript from what we talk about. I put it into AI and have it give me a synopsis. That becomes the blog post, and the long form is embedded at the top of the blog post. Then I take my shorts and I push them out to social media.
Yep. And that alone is enough for because you and I had a chance to talk, and you're familiar with the SEO stuff from years ago as well.
Yeah.
But that all still works, and that's a very easy way for anybody listening at home. If you take anything away from this conversation and you want to be in more places faster, we just kind of gave you the golden goose.
Yeah. Yeah, and so now like I've basically known what I've needed to do for ages, and I've only just put it into play because of the work involved, right? But with the advent of AI, like this, what we use to record this podcast, I would never take the time to produce shorts out of it. But now, because I can just tell it at this mark, go look for a short form of data, it's already produced. I just clean it up a little bit. Boom, I got my short. Now my total involvement is, you know, an hour outside of the podcast. So an hour of record and glad handing time. And oh, hi. Oh, okay. I'm recording a podcast right now. I forgot to turn on my sign, didn't I? All right, go on out and shut the door, please, and I'll be I'll be out as soon as I can, okay? And I'll here, give me your foot. Mwah. Yeah, go for it. I forgot to turn on my on air sign, so that means that the children can bust in.
Ah, gotcha.
So I probably have to cut this little piece out of here.
Really?
Um, yeah, it's all right. So, man, what was I even talking about? I'm sure it was genius, right?
So we were talking through the content multi-purposing and how putting it in play for your business is game
Yeah,
changer.
yeah, game changer for sure. And so, like, I don't even really do anything with the podcast. You know what I mean? I don't have any uh sponsoring it except me. Um, you know, but I do it because I really enjoy talking to people and being able to produce valuable information for others to get to. I oh, I here, do that, baby. But what I was saying is that I am taking what I've learned for this podcast and duplicating it in three separate business areas because I figured out how well it works. To give you an idea, I've got a YouTube channel, adventure YouTube channel. It's 13 years old,
Uh-huh.
right? 13 years old. This channel is like 8 months old and outperforms my adventure channel in watch time and watch hours. And I have uh 100 times as many subscribers, even more than that, on my other channel. It's like, okay, it's not about subscribers. It's
Oh,
about content.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So last one, something that you think is,
So
something that you think is flat out wrong about identity resolution.
yeah. So one of the things that I think is inherently incorrect around that is anybody who heard me talk about it earlier is it's this, oh my God, it's this omnipresent thing that is watching me. And yes and no. But in the grand scheme of things, all that data that we mentioned, everything that we talked about so far, all that data is encrypted. So unless you have the correct piece of software or the correct thing to do it, we set up like so. If I'm working with a client, like for example, we're working with an automotive company right now. They're national, and what we did is they wanted to match their visitors against our data, but they didn't want to necessarily work um, in the regular fashion that we do. So what we did was we set up what we call a white room or a clean room. So it's a private server. They can upload their customer information. And if I have any of that information, it will light up and then unlock that row with all the additional customer information.
Oh, interesting.
And then they would just pay for that to be able to port it into their CRM. So there's things like that that we do that keeps it pretty much locked down.
Yeah.
And again, we do everything, like I said, it's encrypted in transit and at rest for the folks at home. That means that unless you're like severely in there doing stuff, nobody's going to be able to get a hold of it. There's no data leak that comes from this information. It's a cluster of servers talking to other servers.
Cool. You know what that sort of reminds me of, and this is on a far smaller scale, but HubSpot. If you
Yes.
put in anybody's contact information, domain, whatever, it goes, oh, cool. Here's all the data about this company. This is the company. This is how many employees. This is the revenue. This is the whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Which
They
was like, oh my God, incredible.
Yeah, that's the same kind of database. That's a perfect example. That's the same kind of database that we have. We just aren't
Mhm.
tied to HubSpot.
Right.
So it's they have built that and amassed that all through corporate networking and all the stuff that they do. And I'm sure they're using, if not us, then somebody else within the co-op. I've got a larger data co-op that I belong to, and we all pool our resources to make this data the best it can be. So like I mentioned, we were talking a little bit before the show. We work now with Zoom Info and a company called LiveRamp. So we do stuff in there. We also are partners with Instantly.ai, the cold email platform. So like we have various websites and technologies that we're constantly working with to try and help advertisers to be less creepy and give people more of what they
Love it. Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna jump into the next question here. We're already at the 30-minute mark, dude. I wish I could just go longer with this. I try to keep these 30 to 45 so that they're digestible. Um, this is, and shame on me for scheduling a podcast at this time of day. My kids have all just come in now. I wish I could show you. Let's see. Hold on. Do I? No, I can't turn this monitor. Now my 2-year-old is working on my wife's laptop, which means she's like,
There you
so
go.
let's do this last question, and then we're gonna, you know, based on all the interruptions, probably just have to re-record this thing. But just kidding. But what's one thing that marketers, what is one thing that marketers keep overcomplicating that honestly you just need like a Google Doc and some Moxie?
Honestly, when it comes down to it, SOPs, business processes. The thing that everybody falls apart, where everything starts going weird, no matter if you're an agency, e-com, whatever. You scale 0 to 6, then you scale from 6 to 7, and then from there you're looking to try and get to 8 figures. And usually between 7 and 8 figures, stuff starts coming undone because sales will get you to the first million. That's easy. You build your sales process, your business, and all that, you'll hit 1 million a year. That's easy. Scaling beyond that is when you're going to stress test your system and find out exactly how broken your processes are. And if none of them are documented, you're going to find out real quick exactly how to plug those holes.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's mommy's honey. Um, no, it's not broke. You gotta. So this is Josephine. So yeah, it's fine, sweetie. It's fine. Go ask mommy about it, and then shut the door on your way out, and then turn on my on-air sign. Thank you. Um, yeah. So that's something that I actually just started implementing myself because it dawned on me that if I need if I want to expand because it's just me and my company, right? If I want to, excuse me. This has got to be the worst episode I've ever done with interruptions and coughs and stuff like that. But if I want to scale beyond just me, somebody has to be able to do the jobs that I'm doing that I can pass them off on, right?
Mhm.
And so I went, okay, cool. I'm going to hire someone. And I did that. So I've got this person. She's helping me with all, like you said earlier, the grunt work, right? Um, and then I realized, shortly before and especially during and after our conversation in Tampa, that I can automate this stuff. So I use Go High Level, or High Level is my CRM, and I'm creating these SOPs, and with a mixture of AI agents and connections in the Go High Level and automations in there, I could probably take a significant percentage of my time involvement on things like crafting emails to like every client that signed up. I'd write them an email. Well, guess what? That onboarding email is basically the same every single time. So I automated that, and now there's a status in the CRM, like what is this client status? Hey, they're open, it's open, they're interested, they want to get started, they're ready to start, or they're closed. We won it, we lost it, or they canceled it, right? And for each one of those stages, there's different communications that need to go out to that client, and it pulls that data from my CRM. That's great. But if I can take that a step further and go, here's all the emails with that client as well, check, Go High Level, you know, good. Based on this is everything that was said in all of these different email strings. Make sure you include this data that got into some other email chain into this email that gets sent, like, oh man, that would be so good.
Mhm.
So my question for you is going to be, how does somebody take all that all we know we need SOPs, we know we need data. Once we have it, what do we do with it? How can we automate this stuff? And let's take my company for example, because I'm using a CRM, I have SOPs, and I've got endless numbers of emails back and forth with all kinds of clients who've asked me the same questions. How can I build that into an automation?
Absolutely. So if I was doing it and I was a gambling man, which I'm not, but I know the stakes.
Hmm.
So what I would do is first look at any of the processes that I'm currently doing manually, and figuring out where can I step out? Where are things where a software should be talking to a software and it's not me copying and pasting between two tabs?
Yes,
That
which I
that
do
would be
all the time.
right. So that's the first thing you do is figure out that. So like for example, in our business, we also use high level.
Yeah.
So if
Okay.
a new client comes on board, we have a client onboarding form that they have to fill out. And what happens is, depending on which client it is, so like for local clients, we have a different process than we do for larger corporate clients. So for the local guys, we have it set up where they sign up, they plug in all the information about their business, and in the background, I have an automation that I've built out using N8N that allows it to go ahead, pull that business information, start writing blog posts, does a year's worth of Google My Business posts that are formatted specifically to upload into Go High Level. And then from there,
Which you can post to go. Yes. Okay. Okay. Go
right.
on.
So you just dump that sheet into Go High Level and connect it to their Google Business, and it just
Yeah.
works. It sends them the contract via PandaDoc. It updates our tables and teamwork, notifies appropriate team members via Slack, and then from there, hands off everything else in one giant completion circle. So it waits for them to sign the contract, does everything else, and then put the human in the loop. 45 minutes later, they're logged into their high level account with all the posts already made, all the blog posts for their approval, and all the stuff ready to hook up to their CRM. So that's just us going and hooking that piece up, and we're done.
Um, and that. So let's take out the equation of what it costs you to acquire that lead. But once the lead is in, the cost involved in getting all of that done is what exactly?
$3.
$3.
And here's the fun part is that used to take 12 to 15 hours per client to get them onboarded. Because in what I do with SEO, you got to get the Google Business access, you got to get the analytics access, you got to get Search Console access, you got to get website access, and they have to grant all these things to you. So we went ahead and found a service that allows us to do it as a one-click grant all permissions, and it just throws it into our account. So that took several
What?
hours of emails going back and forth completely off the table.
Not only that, but not only emails back and forth, but time involved where the customer doesn't do what you asked them to.
Right. It was literally just click allow. Da 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 da. Do you know this person? Yes. Accept. And then bang, we have all the permissions. They're loaded to the main agency account. And then we're able to go in and grant access to their Go High Level account to have all those pieces in it. So
Nice.
all the reporting and data and everything else is already sucked into the account.
All right. So the last quarter of this episode turned into something that agencies can use. But I think that brands can and should also use this. Any brand should be acquiring the identity and as much data about their customers as possible. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I know there's probably a couple other questions, but I'll skip to the very last one because this is super, super important and it doesn't matter what your business is.
We're going to keep going. I want to keep going. I'm going to ask you these last
Okay.
couple of questions.
All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
cool.
But go
All
ahead.
right, cool. So within that, the mantra for any business and the thing that should be stuck to your post-it note on every business owner's laptop
Yeah.
is you can't track what you can't measure. And it doesn't matter what it is if you're not looking at your seller stats, if you're not checking your traffic, you're not checking your conversions, you're not checking your ads, any of those things. If you're not, it doesn't matter how you're checking it. You can be manually having somebody make a report. You could be automating it using automations, whether it's make.com, N8N, you hire a tech guy, whatever. Or you hire somebody to make some big fancy custom dashboard that eventually breaks and then they've got a nice retainer. You have
So,
you have
or
to
or you just use something simple like, yeah,
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 softwares that
absolutely.
are out
But
there.
but you have to track what you're doing, and you can't track what you can't measure.
I like it. All right. One more question. Many marketers chase hacks and trends. This is especially true, I feel, in the Amazon community.
Mhm.
Um, what's your go-to strategy that's boring, unsexy, but works every single time?
Weekly testing and improvement. So doesn't matter what your business is, doesn't matter what you're doing online. Test one variable every week in your business.
Interesting.
And the reason I say that is because if you focus on one variable at a time, you can run a split test for 7 days, get enough data, depending on what you're doing, to be able to make an educated decision and then go to the next test.
So I would think it to be 30 days. It's you do on 7 days.
I'm testing very, very small actionable things. So like if I'm in the, let's say I'm in the sales copywriting space, the first thing on the page is the headline. And the first thing you need to split test is the headline, and that's it. And that's the difference between whether you make a sale or you don't.
Yes.
So you start there, and then you work your way down the page into the other pieces based on whatever metrics you have. So like within the seller space, it's going to be a little bit different, obviously. But for something like Amazon, where you have a longer life cycle and business cycle, like, you could be running ads, you could be doing all of those different things. But if you're running ads, you should be able to get data fairly quickly, especially with Amazon's DSP. So let's say you're running, you found your optimal budget per sale. Let's call it that. So whatever your daily budget is, you figured out that X dollars will net you Y sold products every day, and you're running at a pretty consistent clip. Leave that alone and test everything else on that page. Test the test the A plus, test the whatever other sections you can. Split test the images. Try a new batch of images and see if you get more sales off the same budget. Look for ways that you can increase what you're doing without necessarily increasing your workload. It's really simple things. I'm sure there's a couple low hanging, levers in your business that you can think of. A lot of people like to say low hanging fruit. I don't like that analogy because low hanging fruit is usually rotten. So
Low hanging vegetables then.
there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Potatoes.
Potatoes, very low hanging.
Exactly. But you want things that are core to your business, that are not going to necessarily make or break you if you test them for a week and then, oh my God, what happened? But things where you can at least peer into the market for a 7 day trial of what you're doing. And again, it's something that is very minute. Like again, for copywriting, it would be like testing a headline. In the ecom space, it might be something different, trying a different image. I know product images are super important in the ecom space. So things like that, where maybe it's a color difference of black background versus white background, whatever it might be. Something very, very simple where it's just, oh, we got a higher click through rate of 40% based on this. That's usually enough to determine if that's a good decision in your business. And then you just keep testing that every single week.
Okay. I like it. All right. One last thing. For Amazon sellers specifically,
Mhm.
give me, well, I think how would an Amazon seller reach out to you to utilize your service? How would you help them?
So it depends. It would be a matter of figuring out where they're at in their business. Are they just selling on Amazon versus are they doing something else with, let's say, Shopify or WooCommerce, whatever it might be. If they're playing in that realm, I can help them to expand their brand, build out more stuff, build more traffic, help them identify customers and lead people back in. If it's if they're just an Amazon seller, it's a bit more difficult because there's not a lot
Not
that I can.
ready.
Well, like there's just nothing I can put into Amazon to make it work better. They've got a very black box system, which being in the SEO space, I love to exploit everything else. So they
Right.
drive me nuts.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. And so it sounds like if they don't already have it built, don't come to you yet. But if they've got like ecom and off Amazon stuff going on, then you can help them improve. But you're not going to build it for them. Is that right?
So I can help them build a website. It'll probably be on WordPress. So it could possibly be in that realm. But just because it's quicker for me to deploy it with the systems that I've built, you can import it
Yeah.
and do whatever else later.
Everything I do is on WordPress as well. It's just what I know.
Yeah, it's quick to deploy. It's fairly easy for even an unskilled, non-technical person to be able to work and get the things they need done. And we start everything out of the box with SEO in mind anyway. So you come out of the box ranking.
That's awesome. All right. Well, Dan, thank you so much for being on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. Where can people get a hold of you?
Sure. So you can get a hold of me on LinkedIn or on misspepper.ai, which is the company website. Those are the two places I primarily hang out with. I have the other platforms, but I just don't spend time on them. Like I'm more focused on growing the business than I am doodling around on Facebook.
Yeah. Same here. Same here. Yeah. Facebook, I realized I've missed hundreds and hundreds of friend requests and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So, all right, man. Well, good. So, misspepper.ai or Dan Kurtz, that's Kurtz on LinkedIn.
mhm,
Dan, thanks for being on the show, buddy. I much appreciate it.
absolutely. Thanks, Danan.
All right, see you, buddy.